Hi, this is Matthew with Blackbird Home Tech, and I just got done installing these Govee outdoor permanent lights Pro. This is my mom's house. This is the first installation I've done of these Govee lights. I'm making this video for a few reasons. One, to just go over some tips and tricks that I figured out while installing these. And the other is, if you're thinking about hiring me to do this, you can get an idea of the quality of work I do. I'm going to start over here. There's no lights on this side of the house because the way the house is set up, you really only view it from the left side of the house. No one really ever goes back here, which is why we kind of just keep stuff back here. But this is where the power goes in. It's like the main power source for the lights. This used to be a floodlight, and I replaced the floodlight with an outlet a few years ago, and using that outlet to supply power to the Govee power supply, which is in this box here. And you can see how I kind of hid the wires up there. I'm gonna go get a ladder and show you what's going on up there. Okay, here we have the power. It was actually really hard finding a hide-a-plug that was white, but you're probably not gonna need this exact setup, so you probably don't need a hide-a-plug like that. But I brought the power over here to this box. And this box I got from Amazon. I think it was like $20–25. It came with these glands. If you're not familiar with wire glands, they are meant to seal, to give a good watertight seal on wires, and they're just coming out of the box. You gotta drill holes into the box with a step bit, and then you feed the wire through the glands. And for this one, it came with a round seal, and what I did was I took the seal out of one of the Govee the splice kits. So I replaced the original round seal with one of the Govee flat seals out of the splice kit, and it fit perfectly. So let me put that back in. Okay, and let me go ahead and open this. I'm gonna paint this eventually. I gotta paint these two. This is where the camera was. Moved the camera over. I'm gonna paint that and paint this box too eventually, after I remove the plastic, of course. But I just wanted to make this video first. So here's all the Govee power supplies and power switch. What I did was I took that extension cord, cut off the end so I can get it through the gland, and then I attached this female outlet to the extension cord. If I had to do it again, I might just keep the normal female outlet part of the extension cord and then just connect it with wire nuts. But this works too. I thought this would be a little bit more professional, but the way it is with the way the wires are stranded, and then you got to screw them down, it's kind of sketchy the way I screwed them in there, but it's fine the way it is. So this is all going to live in here. So I have power going into there, into this, and then this box is plugged in, and then the power comes out. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, and then I got these zip tie connectors. They screw in and then get connected with zip ties. Good way to do it. I like it. Okay. Just gonna walk around. One thing I did here, you'll see I transitioned from white to black. I got a black extension cord. You can get them from eBay. It was $15. And I did that because from back here, you can't see any, like the black wire is very well hidden. There it is right there. But if that was white, that would stand out quite a bit. Let me go get the ladder and show you a bit more what's going on up in there, up in this corner. Okay, I'm up on a ladder now. You can see how I've ended this one strand here going into a black extension. Black extension comes up here. I also use this U-channel, what is it called? U-channel edge protector. This rubber edge right here to protect the wire because it's riding right up against that sharp metal there. I'll put a link to that in the description. But I've got this black wire running up there, and way back there there's a black splice. You can barely see it, but it's a splice kit. Also, I got the black splices from eBay too. I think they were also $15. So here we've got the black splice way back there, and then we started back with the white up here with the first light. This connector right here was somewhat of a mistake. Let me get back down and I'll talk about it. So probably my biggest regret for the whole job was when I was deciding. So I went by the medallion, right? So every medallion has two lights straddling it perfectly. So, you know, before I started with this first light, I really started over here. So I knew that, you know, I would let the position of these decide where the position of that one was first. So I'd started in the middle and then worked my way out. And then when I came to do this, I couldn't tell, like I knew I wanted the two on each side of the medallion, but I didn't know if I wanted 3 or 4 going there, because that fourth one way in the corner, it's like barely even projecting onto the wall at all. Like maybe 10% of it's projecting onto the wall. Most of it's going onto the roof there. And I asked my mom's advice, should I put 3 on the right or 4 on the right? And she said 3 on the right. And I wish I hadn't asked her advice. I should have just thought about it longer, or realized I should have gone with 4, because when I put just the 3, it made the corner really dark. Also, it gave me an odd number of lights, which I'll talk about later. You gotta decide which number of lights you want compared to what. It gets complicated. Anyway, so I had to put that connector there where I really didn't have to, because I went in afterward and added that 4th light in that corner because it was just dark and I needed an extra one. So you can see how those 2 lights are perfectly straddled. Goes along here. There's a splice kit. There had to be a splice kit here, but it's way tucked up into the corner. There it is. Again, attached with one of those zip tie connectors. So I knew I didn't want anything, no dangling wires at all. There's not one single dangling wire. Now with this one, it's not perfect. This light right here isn't like perfectly equidistant from this sidewall than it is from the others, but I wanted to keep that taut. So because these 2 needed to straddle this medallion, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, and I wanted the 4th to be, it's more important that it's the proper distance from that than it is the proper distance from this sidewall. You can see how that one's closer to the sidewall than this one, but it's not like I could move it over, because then I would just leave dangling wires or leave a bunch of wire there. I wouldn't want that, but it still looks good when they're on. Okay, let's move over here. And of course I did the same thing here where it goes out a little too far to keep that perfectly symmetrical from the front view. This is the front door. Goes along here. Now I did something a little weird here. This, I had extra slack in the wire. I couldn't really make it work right. I needed to straddle this medallion, of course. So it's like I could do 2 and then nothing in there and just have the dark corner. And I couldn't like make it the proper distance here because it would run into the wall. Same thing with here. If I made it the proper distance there, it would run into the wall. So this is like the only light that's not really the right distance from the other lights. You can barely tell though. And it's a lot better. I'm glad I did this instead of leaving just a dark corner here. So, because like just 2 lights here wouldn't look right. Just 2 lights in a dark corner. Nah, it really looks good with that extra light there. And so the extra wire I just tucked up into there. It's not going anywhere. And then again, over here, let me zoom out. Again, over here, I transitioned from white to the black extension cord. You can see a bit of that black sticking out. And it was really hard getting it into this gutter. Man, they did the gutter so perfectly that they gave me no room. But I was able to bend the gutter just a little bit. Let me back up a little bit. I was able to bend the gutter to give me just barely enough room to get that nut past. You can see how it's super tight up against the wall. But I was able to get it because I did not want black wire showing there. So it took me about like half an hour to figure out how to get that perfect. And then up here, and it's not as visible as on the other side, but there's the black extension cord leading up to these whites. The black extension cord up here, and then exactly the same as on the right side, there's a black splice connecting to these white lights. Sorry, it's so dark. It's about to get dark. I wanted to make this somewhat close to nighttime so we can get a view of the lights at night. So we've got a black extension cord leading down to there and then going to here. And right here is where I put my booster. I wanted it hidden, so I wanted it behind this gutter. You have to decide early on where you want this booster. They give you 12 strands, and they say the best spot for it is in between the 5th and the 6th. So around halfway, but a little closer to the power source is what I did, or is what they recommend. And what I did was pretty much that. If I did it exactly where they said to, right after the 5th, it would have ended up right there. Of course, I didn't want it there, so I planned ahead. Well, I didn't really plan ahead at first. At first, I actually put all these up, not realizing that I needed this booster. And then once I realized I needed the booster, I thought about it for a while and realized it should go there. And then I took all these down and redid them. And, you know, now that we're here, I'm going to go over how I'm going to go over the clips and how I managed getting the clips on when it's in that little divot there. So I'm going to get the ladder and show you up there. Okay, and the lights are on now. So now these brackets, I call them clips, but the bracket's a better term for them. These slide around the outside of the light and they give you screw holes. And these did not come with the Govee lights. I got them on Amazon. There's a clear best choice of the ones to get on Amazon, and I'll leave a link to those in the description. I wouldn't recommend any of the others. I definitely wouldn't recommend all the 3D printed ones on eBay. Those are lousy, but these are not 3D printed and they're clearly the best. And so mostly you can just use the screws that come with it, but for some of them, like when it lands here, I had to get some different screws, longer screws. I ended up getting stainless number 4 flathead screws, and they have to be exactly that. Don't get any other type of screws. Don't get whatever screws you have lying around. They have to be, I mean, they don't have to be stainless. They gotta at least be, what is it, galvanized or zinc, whatever. It's just something that's somewhat water resistant. But they need to be number 4 flathead for that conical head to fit the hole in the clip. And I got a 3/4 inch. I debated between 3/4 and 1. I'm happy with the 3/4, but I mean, I'm sure 1 would have worked fine too, but 3/4 definitely worked. Gave me plenty of room there. And let me move over a few lights to give you an example of an issue I ran into. Okay, so one issue I ran into is when the light kind of hangs off the edge here, it wants to tilt toward the indentation. And to straighten it out, I just used one of the wire clips that came with the Govee, and I used it in an unorthodox way. It should be like normally the wire should be underneath like that. But I put the wire on the outside just to prop this up and make it straight, because otherwise it would be totally tilted like that. So I recommend doing that when it happens to land in here. Okay, I'm gonna go around here. And what we did was, like I said, that other side of the house no one ever sees, but this side is the opposite. It's often seen. I know the driveway looks bad. We're gonna take care of that. Back here we have a mother-in-law's suite with its own carport. And we wanted, at first we wanted lights just all along this wall, but we actually had an extra strand, so I went ahead and did it all along the front of the carport as well. Okay, let's walk back here. Over here, I needed a splice, so there's a splice there. And I thought I would need an extension, but I actually didn't, because you don't realize it, but the splice itself kind of acts as an extension the way it is. So, because like I just like simply just left more of the cord, like I cut it closer to the light that I cut off, I cut it closer to that, so that left me more cord. And then the splice itself has extra cord, and then I did the same thing over here, so I didn't need an extension here, even though they are quite far apart. They're much farther apart than these two, but I just, you know, left extra cord on for there. Now for this section, it took me a while to realize what I wanted to do, because you can see how this is like really close to over there, and the way this is, it's totally like hanging off the edge here. I just barely have that on. It's like in the last little bit. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to do 6 or 7, but when I put up the 6, it just left a huge gap here of just darkness, and it left the end quite dark too. So I knew I couldn't do 6, I just had to do 7. And I thought it would look bad, the light being so close to this gutter, but it actually looks totally fine. So I'm really glad I went with 7. It took me like just half an hour to an hour just sitting here figuring out how am I gonna do this right. But I'm glad I took the time. That's one good piece of advice. A lot of the time spent doing this should be just sitting thinking about how it should be done and how to get it to look the most perfect. So I'm glad I took the time and thought about it, because it would have looked really bad with only 6, but and 7 looks totally fine. And then we're at the end right here. And right here we ended with a splice also zip tied up there. So that's the end. That's the end of the entire lights here. I'm gonna go over some of the tools I needed, because if you think that you're gonna get by with just what comes on this kit, you will be sadly mistaken. There's a lot more you need. There's like, I already mentioned the clips or mounting brackets. You're gonna need those because what comes with it is just not enough. So obviously you're gonna need a ladder. I very much recommend the Little Giant leveler. I'll put a link in that, link of that into the description. It's by far the best. It's got these adjusting leveler feet that ratchet out and go and retract in. So if you're on uneven surface, it's very safe. You just kick it out and level it that way. So I very highly recommend this ladder for the install. Other than that, we need a drill. I pretty much used a 1/16 bit for everything. Even though there are like big screws, small screws, this aluminum is so thin that 1/16 works for even the big screws. I recommend this, what's this called? A speed square. I got a plastic one. I like that it's orange. I never lost it the whole time. And I chose exactly 3.5 inches as a distance for the lights. They say, I want to say like anywhere between like 3 and 4 inches. They do it in centimeters, so it's not exact, but it's like somewhere between 3 and 4 inches is the distance they recommend. And it probably would have looked better like halfway here, but even that was like way too far out. That was way past the recommended distance. And I chose 3.5 inches because of this little diamond, because a 2x4 is exactly 3.5 inches wide. I assume that's why there's this diamond here. So when I went and when I was deciding where the lights would go, I would just stick that on the wall and then look through that diamond and then line up the inside side of the light exactly with that diamond. That's how I got a perfect 3.5 inches away from the wall for every single one of them. Okay. I have these Tapcon screws I got from Amazon. I probably don't need this, but I just use that for wire cutting. Here are the screws I got from Ace. Here's the item number for the screws I used. I guess you might want to use that. They were 40 cents each. Stainless steel, number 4 flathead screws. Let's see. Okay, here's that U-channel edge guard, the rubber edge guard to protect the wire from the sharp metal flashing. Let's see. A set of step bits that I used to drill the holes in the plastic electrical box to get the wire glands through. What else? Let's see. I got a bunch of these. I really recommend these 6-in-1 screwdrivers because you're gonna need multiple Phillips head. You're gonna need Phillips number 1 and Phillips number 2 depending on the screws you got, and you're also gonna need flatheads just for like prying and such. So I really recommend these. I got a bunch of these because these were on special at Home Depot. 2-pack for I think $3.88. So I got 2 2-packs, 4 of these total, and it was nice having a lot of these. Here's the leftover clips. Show you an example. Those are the clips. And the screws they come with are pretty good. They connect to it. They will stick to a magnet, but they won't stick really hard. I assume that they're kind of a lower grade stainless steel, but anything stainless is fine. So I'm actually pretty happy with the clips. Here are those zip tie connectors. I guess I'm out of the zip ties, but okay, here's some zip ties. So these belong in here. And these are the connectors I use for zip ties. I'll put a link to those. And then when I was working with black, I also got these. I didn't end up using because they were too small, but the black zip ties. Whenever I was connecting a black connector, I wanted to use a black zip tie with that. Okay, one absolute must you need to get is this exact this exact kind of wire stripper, automatic wire stripper. This is a Klein. I very much recommend the Klein. They're all about $20. This Klein is $22, so it's worth it to get the Klein name. And it even says in the instructions that you need this, and what you need it for is for when you're stripping this end. It's so thin, I thought that I could get by without it, and the first few strips I did was just with like a utility knife, but every time I cut it with the utility knife, it ended up cutting the interior wires too. But with this automatic stripper, it does a perfect job. It cuts the outer jacket, and then you end up with your 3 wires, and then you do the same thing on the 3 wires all at once. It strips them all perfectly. But you're gonna need that if you're gonna do any splicing, and I would imagine you certainly will need to do splicing with these splice kits. Let me show you the inside of these. So this is a really nice system. You just strip the wires, put them in there, and then it gives you a connector. This is both in and out, and then there's a connector in the middle. Okay, here's a spare black extension cord. This one I actually got from eBay, but it was messed up. This nut doesn't even fit around this because it's all warped. It's not even round, this nut. So I messaged the seller and he sent me a new one. One thing, you're gonna need a lot of these. I got Clorox wipes. I recommend Clorox wipes. Clorox wipes and paper towels to wipe down the soffit before you stick on the adhesive. It's good adhesive, but of course it needs to be cleaned before you stick it on. I didn't use this at all. I was thinking about using this for spacing, but I ended up using the speed square instead. Let's see what else is there. This is what I was using. This is a wire stripper that I was using before I got the Klein. Don't recommend that. There's the end of the extension cord that I cut off. Here's a tiny little screwdriver that I was using before I got these 6-in-1s. I definitely recommend the 6-in-1s. Here's the clips that came with the Govee. They don't give you nearly enough, and yeah, you're definitely gonna want these Amazon clips. That'll be in the description. Let's see, I think that's about it. Oh, and it's probably the 16th. So I recommend getting a few 16th inch bits. Don't get, like if you have a set of drill bits, don't just grab your 16th and use it. Go to the store and get a 2-pack or 2. I got a total of 4. I don't know, 2. Yeah, I think I only got 2. I got 1 2-pack of 16th inch bits because they dull. Like you end up using 2. You need to drill 2 holes per light, so it doesn't take long for these to get dull or break. So don't use your good ones that came in your nice drill bit set. Go to the store and buy a 2-pack or maybe 2 2-packs of 16th inch bits so you can use them just for this job, because they will dull and they will break. I think that's about it. So you need all these tools. You need the electrical box. I mean, I would recommend getting an electrical box either way. They don't discuss it in the instructions, but you need a drill, all this stuff. Okay. So I think I'm gonna wait for it to get a little darker and go over some of the lighting options. I custom made this this lighting scene, if you will, this chasing red, green, and soft white. And oh, I gotta mention how like I mentioned before, you have to think about how many lights total you want. At first I had 107, And because 107 is not divisible by 3, this 3-light chasing system didn't really work right. Because I started with red, green, white, and did red, green, white all down the line. And at the end, because it wasn't divisible by 3, I wanted to end with red, green, white, but I ended up with red, green. I was short one because 107 isn't divisible by 3. It's divisible by 3 minus 1. So, I mean, you know, I need to add 1 to make it divisible by 3. So what would happen is at the end of the light, it ended in green, there would always be a missing white traveling around. Like it should have been red, green, white, but it was red, green instead of red, green, white, red, green. So that kind of error would just travel around the whole way because it was not divisible by 3. So what I did was I changed it to 108, which is divisible by 3, by adding that 1 in the corner, like I mentioned earlier. And 108 is divisible by 3. It's also divisible by 4. So if I wanted to use 4 colors, it would work. So you got to think about the total number of lights you want. Your best bet would be like, if you wanted to use like all 6 colors of the rainbow, you'd want to go in multiples of 30. Like you'd want 30, 60, 120, something like that. That's the way you're covered overall. But I'm covered. I can either do 1 color, 2 color, 3 colors, or 4 colors, because 108 is divisible by all of those. Now I can't do 5 because 108 isn't divisible by 5, but that's fine. Okay, now that it's darker out, we can get a good idea of what they look like. The sky looks a lot brighter on camera than it does in real life. It's pretty much nighttime. In about half an hour it'll be pitch black. But the bugs are starting to come out now, so I just want to do this now. So you can see, get a good idea of the brightness. They look quite a bit brighter on camera than they do in real life, but I don't even think they're set to 100% brightness. They default, I think, to 90%. So we got our deer. My mom is obsessed with deer. So she loves these. So we can get a good idea. We've got our fake flicker flame candles and our pendant and our coach lights. So I just wanted to go over a little bit in the app. That's a motion light there. So I just wanted to go over a little bit what's going on in the app. So I made some custom lights. We're on, the mosquitoes. So we're on Christmas now. Let's see, I can edit them. This is how I edit it. I made the background color this warm white, and then you choose the fill color. Okay, so we're on Christmas now. I made this custom fall. Kind of a yellow and orange for fall. Let's see what else. I got this Halloween. Okay. Halloween, I did green and orange, just still, and I was gonna do purple, but we've got purple, we've got black light for landscape lights. We've got these landscape lights everywhere, and they're off right now because my mom likes them off for the Christmas light, when the Christmas lights are on. But when they're on, we replace them with black lights. So it's gonna be orange and green, and then the black lights for purple. And in the landscape lights, it's gonna look really cool. Let's see. I made one for Mardi Gras, purple and green. I made this initially Halloween for purple and green, and my mom said, oh, that looks like Mardi Gras. So I made this Mardi Gras, and I made it moving. So that's for Mardi Gras. Let's see, I made one for Pride Month. This one's pretty cool. Starts over on the side and comes around. I gotta keep moving to keep these mosquitoes off of me. So I did this one for Pride Month. It's pretty cool. It takes a while to get started because for some reason it starts at one end and then goes around. But then once it's around once, it just keeps going. And it looks especially cool down this wall when you can see the full spectrum. Okay, what else do I got? I got St. Patrick's Day, just green. Oh, but then they kind of, what did I do for St. Patrick's Day? I did green, but they kind of change a little bit. I don't remember exactly how I set St. Patrick's Day up. Oh, and then I did USA flag. I did this one. This one's kind of cool because I made it custom to look more like the flag, blue and white on the left, red and white on the right. So it kind of gets that flag look to it. So that's going to be cool for 4th of July or Memorial Day, Veterans Day, whatever. Let me know what you think. Is that good or is just red, white, and blue better? I'm not sure. I think I like this better than just simply red, white, and blue. Okay, what else do I have here? Okay, yeah, those are all the custom ones. Oh, I didn't do Valentine's Day, did I? Valentine's. I just did pink and red with the red. Is it called breathing? I think it's called, I don't know if it's breathing for red. So I made it, I don't know, like a heartbeat or a breathing motion for Valentine's Day. Pink and breathing red. I don't know, I think it looks pretty cool. I couldn't make them both breathe. It'd be nice if I could make like the pink, like it breathing back and forth, but it was just, I could make them one breathe and the other one not. So this is what I landed on. Sort of like a heartbeat for the red. I don't know. Anyway, let me go back to Christmas and we'll discuss pricing. So the Govee Light Pro themselves, this was the 200 kit is what I needed. You might need the 100 or the 150, but it was 600 for this on Amazon. And as for the other add-ons that you're gonna need, it's gonna be anywhere from 200 to 400. So I would say, like with tax and everything, worst case scenario, if you do it yourself, you're gonna be out 1,000. I would allot 1,000 for it if you're gonna do something this size. If it's gonna be smaller, knock off maybe 200. You're gonna need fewer clips and fewer lights. The lights do go down a little bit, but you're not gonna get it done for much less than 1,000. So your minimum is gonna be around 1,000. And if you want me to do it or someone like me, at the time of this video, I'm charging $50 an hour. And this took me somewhere between 45 and 50 hours. So I did the math, that's $2,250 to $2,500. So I would say if you're gonna have me do it and it's this size, expect to spend a worst case, probably about $3,500 for this. So I'm gonna end the video here. Let me know if you need this done. I'm in the Orlando, Florida area and I will be available. So send me an email. All right, thanks for watching.